You're listening to Life as a Band Leader with Angela O'Neill and Outrageous 8 Records, where music meets real life and every story swings. From rehearsals to the spotlight, we're sharing the music, the mayhem, and the magic of leading a modern band.
Hey, everybody. This is Angela O'Neill, and this is our brand new podcast called Life as a Band Leader. I am so honored today to have my good friend Mark Winkler with us today. Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
It's so much fun to do these interviews with folks who have been in the music industry for a second. And the intention of this podcast really is to allow folks who are maybe entry level getting into the industry kind of a window into what people have done to make this kind of work for them in this era when it seems hopeless, for lack of a better way of putting it, right?
Yeah.
So what's your background a little bit? Are you a kid who grew up in a musician's house, or where did you come from?
Yes, I grew up in a musician's house. My mother was a singer with a big band
Wow.
and played piano. And I have two brothers, and everybody in the house sang. And on Friday nights, she'd play piano and sing, and her sisters would come over, and one of her sisters was a wonderful singer, my Aunt Shirley. And I had to really fight to sing in my family. And they didn't let me sing until I was 13 because
Wow.
I guess I wasn't very good. But my brother Bob actually was the singer. And then when I was 13, I guess my voice changed. And
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
yeah, so I did grow up with my mom was very much she left show business, but she never really left show business.
Right, right. Got it. Okay. There certainly does seem to be a through line for people who end up doing this for a lifetime. And for me, my dad and my mom were both singers. We had a piano in the living room. Any holiday, it was the exact same thing as you. They had friends, they did community theater. All those friends came over. They had parties, everybody sang. That was also of that era, in the 50s, mid to late 50s, when singing was something kind of everybody did. And it
Well,
was,
you know what I discovered, Angela,
yeah.
is that white people didn't do that. We
Oh,
did,
oh,
but I find a lot of people who that I think it's a tradition actually in the Filipino households
hmm,
and in Black households. But
oh,
in the white households, I've talked to so many people and they go, oh no, nobody sang, or oh, I don't, they were so inhibited about their singing. That's my experience. But in my household, nobody was inhibited. Everybody was singing.
so you know what? You and I had this conversation off camera the other day about your dad being born in Hungary. Was it
Right?
in Budapest or
Yeah.
not Budapest? Yeah,
Mhm.
Budapest.
Budapest.
And I'm absolutely obsessed with that city. It is so beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And the fact that all my grandparents were also born in Europe, and my grandparents on my mom's side are Spanish. And yeah,
Oh,
oh yeah, there's no embarrassment about singing. Everybody just comes and sings, and you bring what you got. You sing, you
yeah.
can either sing or not sing. Sound good or not good, sound good. It doesn't actually matter, right? It's
Well,
everybody
in
has.
my family, it mattered. I could lie and say it didn't, but my family, they were bitchy, you know? And my mother, we used to watch TV,
Yeah.
and she was very opinionated about what singers she liked and
Who
the
was
things.
her who was her favorite?
Her favorite singer was Judy Garland.
Oh,
But she also loved Ethel Waters.
oh, I don't even know who that is.
Ethel Waters actually the first thing she did was Supper Time, which
Huh.
was an incredible Irving Berlin song. She did it on Broadway. But then she actually went into the movies and did this great movie called Member of the Wedding. But
Hmm.
she was she was a little bit older than Lena Horne. So
Okay.
she sang a lot of the Harold Arlen songs that Lena Horne
Oh,
sang.
my favorite.
But my mother loved her, and my mother didn't like singers that showboated, which meant oversang. And she'd go, no, she's oversinging, or she's making faces when she's singing, or oh, he's not so good. Pat Boone came on, and she said, oh, he's not so good. So she was very opinionated. and everybody in my family. They didn't let me sing, as I mentioned before, you know.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Yeah, that would have been, did she let's see, it would have been maybe the Frank Sinatra show. Judy Garland had a TV show during that
Oh yeah,
time.
she loved that. We
And Nat
watched
King
that.
Cole actually
Loved
briefly,
Nat King Cole.
oh,
She
who,
didn't like Lena Horne
huh,
because Lena Horne made faces when she sang.
okay, okay, that's fair, that's consistent.
So yeah, so I mean, she didn't hate Lena Horne because Lena
Yeah,
Horne's a good singer.
yeah.
Kind of, you know, she liked Bing Crosby better than Frank Sinatra.
Oh, that is interesting. Well, I will say I have read quotes of Frank Sinatra saying that he thought that I believe it had to do with the use of the word crooner.
Right.
People would say to him, "Oh, you're such an amazing crooner," and he'd say, "I'm not a crooner. Bing Crosby is a crooner." And
Yeah.
that's so interesting to me. I'm not sure what he used as a criteria to decide who was or wasn't a crooner, but he really admired Bing Crosby's singing. So that's very interesting. And patterned himself much after.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I
and
like both of them.
me too. Oh my gosh, your mom sounds like a kick. I bet she was a
She
kick.
was a kid. She was. She was a lot of fun. And you know, the other thing is she used to perform with big bands. So she would have dinner like at 1 o'clock in the nighttime. So she'd always cook in the middle of the night.
Oh,
And I'd stay up late with her sometimes. And she'd be cooking matzo brie, which is this great,
I know what matzo
you
brie is.
know, matzo brie is great. And
Delicious.
she'd be giving me singing lessons. And she'd say, okay, sing something. And I'd go, night and day, you are the one, only you, underneath the moon. And she says, no, 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 don't breathe in the middle of a line. She says, singing is speaking. She said, you never do night and day, you'd go night and day. You know, so it's like singing is how you speak, and you
Right.
don't breathe in the middle of a line. So she was very, very big on that.
I love that. So pre-adolescent vocal lessons in the middle of the night.
Yeah, with matzo brie.
Wow. That's a movie right there. It
Yeah, it
really
really is. It really is.
is. Wow. Okay, so that's an amazing beginning. And you grew up in New York?
Los Angeles.
You grew up in LA. I did not know that.
I'm an LA kid. Yeah.
Oh, a Los Angelino, a rarity here.
Mhm.
So you grew up in LA, and how do you think that, middle of the night matzo brie and vocal lessons kind of motivated you? Like, how did it go from there? Did you just decide I'm going to be an artist, and then you kind of followed that track, or was there left and right turns, or how did it go?
No left and right turns. When I was 9 years old, I knew I wanted to be a singer. And for some reason, I thought if I told my mother, she'd hate it. And I finally gathered up the courage to tell her. And she looked at me and she said, of course you're going to be a singer. You know, like, of course you are. Like, there was no doubt. I mean, she lived and breathed show business.
Right.
My mother went to this beauty parlor on Saturdays called Helen Boret Beauty Parlor on the Sunset, with all the movie stars. And she was, my mother was a very charismatic lady, and she, she was friends with all these people, and she knew all the gossip that later on, Kitty Kelly would put in her books. My
Right.
mother knew all this stuff.
Ah,
So I grew up, I was surrounded. If I hadn't been a performer or a singer, it would have been a really crazy, because show business was everywhere in my childhood.
right. It was in your blood from the very beginning.
It was in my blood, yeah.
And so where did you go to high school? Where did you go to college?
Well, this is what was good. I went to high school, and it happened to be, I went to my middle school, my junior high school was middle-class Jewish kids. And, I had a terrible time, as everybody does in junior high school. So when I had a choice to go to Fairfax High School, which is more middle-class Jewish kids, or going to Los Angeles High School, which was basically 60% Black, I went to LA High. And when I got to LA High, the new friends I made at LA High, they'd look at my Leslie Gore albums. They'd go, no, 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 you can't play Leslie Gore. Here's Nina Simone.
Ah,
Here's Etta James.
right.
I remember they gave me the album Peaches by
Oh.
Etta James.
Oh,
And we had a great music program at LA High, and I got into the choir, and it got me into soul music and jazz, really.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what an experience. I mean, that is like I don't even know what you know what they say with language. You know, when you go to Spain, you will learn Spanish, right?
Yeah,
It's that same thing. If you're just thrown into a situation where a culture that you're unfamiliar with is just you're just enveloped in it.
yeah,
It just becomes a part of you, and plus you're a kid, right? And kids flex and fit in much easier than adults do. You know, they really are so observant of everything around them. So I bet that was
yeah.
an incredible experience.
But I was a little music nerd when I was a kid. I read Billboard magazine from the time I was 8 years old. So I also was very much into my little obsessions. I was always obsessed. I love Burt Bacharach, for example. I just
Right.
thought he was great.
Hmm.
And then I started listening to a station in LA called KMPC. And there was a DJ on KMPC named Johnny Magnus. And he played jazz, but he would never say the word jazz. But I realize now that he was playing, he played Nancy Wilson and Bud
Oh,
Shank
I
and
love Nancy
Walter
Wilson.
Wanderley and Jack Jones and Tony Bennett and Carmen McRae. And he'd never say the word jazz. And years later, I got to meet him. And I wrote a song about him on one of my early albums. And he was a great guy. And he introduced me once to one of my shows. It was fantastic. And
Wow. What
he
an
really formed a lot of my
experience.
music that I love.
And how was it to meet him in person? How was that experience?
Great.
Yeah.
He was by this time he was older, but he was doing a show on one of the stations that had turned into a Great American Songbook station.
Hmm.
This is about 15 years ago. And
Okay.
he was an older guy. And then he went to K-Jazz for a while. He had a Saturday morning show called The Swingin' Years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I've
he was
heard,
a cool cat. He was
yeah,
very
I've
cool.
heard that name before for sure. I mean, he's
He
definitely,
did The Weather with a Beat, which means he did a Neil Hefti song. It was da 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 Phoenix, 57 degrees. Da 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 LA, 98 degrees.
no
So he did
way.
the weather all over the country with To the Weather with the Beat, which was a Neil Hefti song. I think it's Little Darlin' or something, one of those.
Wow, that's really inventive. I love that
Oh
idea.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He
So
was great.
so you end up in high school, you're in choir, you're like me, you're stuck in the band room. Like I don't think I ever left I mean, I barely left the band room when I was a kid.
Well,
I
here's the deal with me, Angela. I was a good artist. So I did my time between the band room and the art room. So
okay.
I was actually I won a lot of awards in high school for my art. So I had a decision to make. But
Mm.
something happened in high school. My aunt, who was a singer, heard me sing and said, "Wow, you're really good. I'm going to get you to somebody." So there was a accordion player in her band, one of her bands in the 50s, and he'd become a big arranger, Jimmy Haskell.
Hmm.
He arranged Bridge Over Troubled Water and Ode to
Oh,
Billy Joe
great tune.
and Mama Cass, make your own kind of music. And she said, "I'm going to call him." And she did, and he was just getting a divorce. And my aunt was a very beautiful woman. And she always said to me after the first date she had with Jimmy, "You owe me," because he was very handsy, let's say, you
Oh,
know. And but she got me to meet Jimmy, and he mentored me, and he was my mentor. And he took me to all these great recording sessions when I was a kid, and and he believed in me, and we did my first masters were with Jimmy.
wow. Yeah, it does seem like there also is another common thread amongst people who end up kind of committing to music for a lifetime. And one of the common threads that I have found is that there are often one or more mentors or kind of people who build a bridge for you between the music that was happening and the music that you're going to be included in. I've had quite a few people who have encouraged me when I would never have done stuff like sung with a big band or whatever. And they said, no, 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 you should come down and sing with a band. And I was like, why would they, why? Why would they let me? And they're like, oh no, because you're great. You should do it. And I'm like, I don't know. But they literally people will talk you into doing stuff, trying stuff. if you don't believe yourself that those things will work for you. And thank God for those folks, who can
Yes.
encourage you in that moment when you're like, no, that's not something I can do. And you end up trying. And then that person's belief in you, at least in my case, really motivates you to want to get up and take the risk because they believed in you.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have the courage, you want to try it for their sake and say, God, that was so kind of them to support you and tell you were great. And then you kind of have to get up there and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had people in my life like that. People in this, you don't do it alone,
No.
in this life. You're never alone. I mean, there's been some wonderful people in my career, who've helped me along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. So we were kind of in high school-ish,
Yeah.
and then you met the band leader, your aunt's friend, who
Yeah.
took you along and took you to recording sessions. So you kind of had a sense of how all of that worked.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this was with big bands or jazz or
No, he was doing the pop artist. So I went to an Andy Williams session. I went
no.
to a grassroots session. I went to uh, uh, Frankie Lane I remember there was a whole orchestra in the studio. I
Wow.
mean, he just took me everywhere.
Hmm.
And I was, I held his, charts,
Yeah.
helped with the charts, passed them out. But I remember we went to a session, Gold Star Studios, and then we went and it was a string session actually for one of his albums because he was signed to Dot Records as an artist.
Mm.
And he did albums like Percy Faith, so it was like instrumental versions of the hits of the day.
Okay.
So he had a whole string section. And when the guys did their union break, they went to the phone booths. I remember all the guys went to the phone booths and were betting on horses and smoking lots of cigarettes, So
Oh my
that made a
gosh.
big impression on me. I thought, wow, they weren't talking about the music. They
Right.
were they were talking to their bookies.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. What an interesting impression to get as a kid. You're like,
Yeah.
wouldn't they be sitting around, talking about, something to do with the recording? No, not at all. It's a
No,
job.
no, no.
So they
It's a
were not,
job and
yeah.
they're betting on the bookies. The
And
books.
so as a kid then, were you always wanting to be a writer? Or what do you think your
Oh,
yeah.
well, Jimmy was the person who said to me, "Do you write?"
Hmm.
And I said, "No, not really."
Yeah.
But that night, I dreamed a song,
Oh, how
and
interesting.
terrible song
Well, still you dreamed
called
it.
called Ice Cream Man. We're talking late '60s, so this is a very psychedelic
Yeah.
pop.
Hmm.
And I came back to him and sang it, and he liked it. And he said, "Keep writing, kid." I met him every Saturday at his apartment, and I was writing. And I went to see publishers,
Hmm.
and I met this publisher, very grumpy guy, older guy, and I sat down at the piano. I played a little bit of piano, and he said to me, "Who do you think you are? Who do you think you sing like? Or your songs are loud?"
Right.
And I said, "Randy Newman," because I loved Randy Newman at the time. I still love Randy Newman.
Yeah.
And he said, "No, you're not good enough to be Randy Newman."
Oh,
He said, "Kid, you need to take songwriting lessons." And I got all very upset,
yeah.
oh, my songs aren't good. And I thought about it and I did. And that was a great, I wrote a book, Angela, last year,
Yeah.
a songwriting book.
Yes. Yes, yes. We
And
will
that's the first chapter of my book, meeting this guy.
Hmm.
And I said, I wish I could thank this guy because he really changed my life.
Right.
Because he just expedited me getting better quicker. So I took songwriting classes with a wonderful writer, another guy who helped me along the way, Al Kasha, who wrote "There's Got to Be a Morning After." He wrote
Oh
that. He
yeah.
won the
Uh-huh.
Academy Award for that.
Yeah.
And he was a great guy. And he, for some reason, loved my writing.
Mm.
And I was lousy. But now that I'm a teacher myself, I realize what he liked is that I had original ideas.
Hmm.
I didn't come up with cliches. I came up with kooky stuff.
Yeah.
That's what he liked, you know. And he really taught me how to write a and really nice guy. Unfortunately, he died a couple of years ago. But
I'm so
he,
sorry.
yeah, I took a couple of classes with him.
Isn't it interesting though how somebody it's shocking when you're a kid
Yeah.
that somebody's criticism actually can be such a positive catalyst
Yes.
as an artist. I don't think it serves any artist to have people around you who are yes people and only support you. You really do need that voice of clarity and reality sometimes, just to, snap you out of your reverie artistically. And that has been something that's been really useful for me too, is when people, I think nowadays I don't get upset about it, because I realize when people say things that are true, and this may be your case too with this guy who was so critical, it really resonates. Like you can feel that something that people criticize you about is absolutely on the mark, and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
yes, that's correct. And that to me is really a big part of being an artist. Being able to take criticism, being able to assess whether it's accurate, which is important because
Yes.
some people are not giving you good feedback.
Right. A lot of
Some
people.
a lot of people, they have different agendas going on, and that's fine. But some people, they give it to you and you can really feel that they're right on track. And now to
Mhm.
take that and translate that to move forward with it is really challenging, right? To translate into something productive,
Yes.
to, like you did, go out and become a better songwriter, somebody who find somebody then who encourages you and teaches you how to channel what you naturally had, right? That is such an interesting process, and it's so good that you then became later on a teacher so that you could pass on that same gold to people. It's got to be very sat-
Rewarding.
satisfying, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
to do
I
that.
had no idea how rewarding being a teacher would be. I had a student yesterday, and she has a new little baby, an 8-month-old baby, and she's just a wonderful writer. And she played a song yesterday, that she had written lyrics to, and it was just fantastic, you know. And I said, "This is great, but change this. You need to do this, this, and this." And she sent me the new lyric, the revision today. She did exactly what I said. It is so much better and great. And it's so satisfying. She's wonderful.
Yes.
So,
And
yeah.
and that leads me to kind of my next subject, which I think is such an important part, again, for younger people who might be coming into music, coming into anything, writing, composing, writing lyrics, composing anything, is collaboration, and
Hmm.
much a crucial part of uh of any artistic endeavor. It is. I mean, the name of this podcast is Life of a Band Leader.
Hmm.
But what I am finding as I interview more and more people is those leaders have always collaborating with everyone, right? Like you said, nobody does this alone. This is
No,
this is
unless you're Ed Sheeran and you've got your guitar and you go out on these stages and you've got your pedal that does different rhythms and stuff.
yeah,
But our George Winston used to go out with his piano and make millions of dollars because he didn't have a band. But generally, you've got a band, you've got people you're working with, and actually, that's the nicest part. And what I have to say, what's the nicest part of my career? It's been working with these fantastic musicians we have in Los Angeles,
uh,
working with your band. I had such a blast and they were so good, each one of them. And reconnecting with Rocky uh, Davis, who I'd written with and worked with 30 years before, reconnecting with him and seeing all these great horn players and Bill Bodine, who was great. And, you know, it's wonderful. I'm a people person, so I really I like working with people. I like the back and forth of it.
yeah. I mean, it is true about Ed Sheeran, except for what would a performer be without the audience? So
That's
you
right.
need that part of the collaboration, even if it's
Yeah,
just you and your guitar. You still need
definitely
that
do.
audience or somebody to give you feedback, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
If it's not a
Well,
band.
in my class, I teach something called gatekeepers. And
Hmm.
I say to people, you have to have about three people in your life who are not your lover, not your mother, not your father, not your best friend, but somebody who's maybe a little farther along in the business than you are. Somebody who's maybe a teacher, somebody who's maybe a critic, somebody who's maybe made it, who can weigh in on your stuff
Hmm.
and give you advice, but only about three, because everybody's got an opinion. And sometimes we can go really astray by taking the wrong opinions.
Hmm.
So I always pick the people that I want to listen to. And
Yeah.
but I definitely have those people. So that's what I tell the kids in my class.
I think that's really smart. A trusted person who knows you well enough. And again, like your teacher who you learned, your first teacher who you learned writing with, someone who
Yeah.
sees what it is that you bring,
Yeah.
what it is that you have to offer as an artist, but is willing to give you feedback as to when you've kind of gone off the rails, when you're
Yeah.
into territory that doesn't serve you.
Which we all do.
Yeah.
But I like so we're talking about collaboration. So the thing that popped into my head, first thing is my number one golden rule when collaborating is be very nice to the person's partner.
That's good advice.
Yeah, it's very good advice because a lot of people, their partner means a lot to them.
Yeah.
And um, I don't know, I don't want to be what's the word? I don't want to lump people all in together, but I know a lot of male musicians that are sort of all over the place and their wives sort of run the show, you know? And I always make it my business to ingratiate myself with them because they'll go, oh, yeah, right with that guy again. He's really nice. He said, Howard, I'm asking about the kids and how's the dog doing. I like all that stuff. I actually care about all that stuff,
Yeah.
but I definitely am nice to the partners of the people I work with.
It's funny that you
It's a good habit to have.
it is a good habit to have. It's funny because after the show that you and I did at Vitello's recently,
Yeah.
your boyfriend walked up to me and shook my hand and said, and I didn't ever get a chance to say this, tell you this, and he said, "Thank you so much. I could hear Mark today, and I was so happy that the band played in such a modulated way that we could really hear Mark and hear the lyrics and hear the word. It's and you know,
Oh,
and I was like, it was such an interesting compliment, and it was so heartwarming for me, because we really do make an effort. I think the band makes an incredible effort to listen to. I mean, it makes a big difference that that Sam Morgan, our musical director, both his parents are vocalists.
mm,
And so I think that he's incredibly vigilant about paying attention to the vocalist, which is sometimes not the case. And
yes.
yeah. And so I've been amazed by him over the years. The band has been together for 10 years, as you know, and amazed with his sensitivity to making sure that we collaborate collaborate in such a way that everybody gets represented equally. And that is, just like democracy, that is a challenge. It really is way more of a challenge, I think, than people realize. So you come out of high school, you're songwriting. Are you performing as a singer at that point as well, or no?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
So
When I came out of high school, I went to art school, but yet I dropped out. I wound up dropping out of
okay.
Cal Arts, and because I was just performing, and that's where my heart took me, you
Yeah.
know. And I was working with Jimmy and doing different things, and I chose the music. So and it took a long time for any success to happen for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the
What would you
first
say?
go
What would
on.
you say? What would you say your first in your heart? What felt like the first success for
Oh,
you?
no, no, no. The first success I had was like anybody would know was a success.
Okay.
I was writing songs. I had taken the songwriting classes, so I was better,
Yeah.
but I wasn't that good yet, but I went and in one of Al's classes,
Hmm.
he has an assignment called Write to the Picture. And it was a Vogue magazine covers from the 30s.
Oh, cool.
And I picked this one picture of this woman in sort of a flapper dress, holding a long cigarette holder,
Yep.
and behind her was a ship. And I wrote a song to that. And at the time, there was a big #1 song called Midnight at the Oasis,
Oh, yeah.
Maria Muldaur.
Hmm.
Muldaur.
Yeah.
And I sort of did it like an old-timey shuffle. Okay.
Hmm.
And I wrote this song. And then when I'd start singing it, when I went to publishers, it was the song everybody liked. You know,
Okay.
my other songs were awful. I wrote a song called King Kong. I wrote another song called Love Stains. You're the deepest shade of blue, but nobody ever liked Love Stains. But but I had an idea.
I
But
got
when I
you.
sang this song, everybody stopped, which I noticed. So I finally got it recorded by Liza Minnelli, who had just won her Oscar.
Oh,
This was 1976, I think, or 77. I was
okay.
25 years old.
Hmm.
And it was a big deal. And it
Huge.
was the title song of her album.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but here's the terrible thing. The good
Oh,
thing was, I got to meet Liza Minnelli and it was,
yeah.
it's fun. But I didn't have any other good songs. It was
Oh,
going to be another year or so until I really wrote some other good songs. So then I started writing, and I had other people record my songs, Stephanie Mills and LTD and Diane Reeves but that took a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
You have
So
to have I don't know that there's a lesson to be learned here, except for you have to write.
patience. I mean, I honestly, after the Liza Minnelli thing, I met with people and I didn't have the goods.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting with Richard Perry, who was producing the Pointer Sisters, and he was a great guy, but I didn't have the songs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it takes, I guess in order to get a song that what you would say everyone reacted to it in a positive way, just one song, you have
Right.
to write a lot of songs.
I had a lot of bad songs.
Yeah. Yeah. And what turned the corner for you? When did you did you ever come up with kind of a recipe to do better songs
Yes.
in your mind? And
Oh
that's what
yeah.
you teach. That's what you teach today, obviously, is that recipe.
Yes. So what happened is, for about, I've never thought about this in a while, how long, maybe 5 or 6 years, every week I went to the publishers up and down Sunset Boulevard. I knew all of them and they knew me. And I got some of my songs recorded, most of my songs not recorded, a lot of my songs published, made a little bit of money, started writing with different people.
Yeah.
And then I was in a songwriters group, and that was fantastic because they were really good songwriters. And I made a lot of wonderful connections. And there was a woman in my group named Phyllis Molinary, and she was about 10 years older than me. And she wrote Here's to Life in the group, the
Wow.
Shirley Clarke song. So she was great. And then in 1981, I'm trying to think how this happened. I wrote a song called Jazz Life, and I decided I wanted to write. By this time, I decided I want to be a jazz singer because previous to that, the first 5 years, I was going to be either Barry Manilow or Billy Joel.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
right.
Well, for a time, I wanted to be the Bee Gees, but when I made a demo where I was singing like the Bee Gees, everybody told me, "Don't sing so high, Mark." It's like, but I have this demo where I'm singing, thank you. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Some of
Oh
those
yeah.
gatekeepers said, no, Mark.
No. I listen. Yeah, people said, no, don't do that. But I decided I wasn't ever going to be Barry Manilow or Billy Joel, and I really was digging jazz at the time. I dug Mark Murphy, Al Jarreau, the Manhattan Transfer, Michael Franks. I love those people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to write in that
Genre.
group. Yeah, genre. So I came up with this idea for a whole album called Jazz Life.
Hmm.
And at the same time, I met this guy, and he was working for a small label out of Seattle. And I did a demo with this wonderful guy I met in my songwriters group, and he signed me. They gave me $2,500 to make an album, 1982.
Oh my God.
And the only reason we made an album, and it really sounds great, is because the guy had his own home studio, and he was a really good engineer as well as a really good songwriter.
Wow.
So we made the album, and it actually did pretty good, and it did great in Japan.
Wow.
So that got me started.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was working with another songwriter at the time, and he's passed away. His name was Michael Cruz, and he did Kids Incorporated, and just he was the #1 Latin commercial maker in the United States for a while.
Wow.
And he was an incredibly dynamic individual. And when I was offered $2,500 to do my first album, I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. And he said, yes, you can. He said, at the time, this is 1981. He said, at the time, nobody was making albums. He said, 1% of the people we know have made an album. Make your album. You're going to be in that 1%. Do it. And I followed his advice, and it was a great, great advice.
That's great. That's kind of another case of somebody believing in you when you didn't necessarily believe in yourself, which is a great lesson for people is, it's not always going to be like, you're filled with confidence at every moment in your career. That's not how it happens. You're
No.
90% of the time plagued by self-doubt and questioning, and you should be, which makes you a better artist. To be self-critical is not a terrible thing. But then there's those people who grab you and say, no, this is the time. This is the time to be confident, to do the thing that you should do. So
Yeah.
amazing. That was the first of, now how many records are you up to now?
22.
22.
Amazing, huh? Yeah.
That blows my mind. All the writing, all the work, everything that goes into it makes me feel tired just thinking of 22.
No, it makes me, I feel very proud and inspired and a little bit tired. But we were talking about how did I know when I knew how to write a song?
Yes.
And it's writing and getting to be a better writer is a process.
Mhm.
And I still write bad songs. George Gershwin has bad songs.
Yeah.
Bacharach has bad songs. Paul Williams has bad songs. So that's nothing. Don't be afraid of that. But generally, if somebody comes to me and says, Mark, I want you to write a song for Ann Hampton Callaway, or I want you to write a song for Diane Reeves, I can write that song. Whether it's going to be the greatest song in the world I don't know. But I can write a pretty good song. And it's because I know the techniques of songwriting.
Yeah.
And being a teacher for the last 21 years has just made me so much better because I have to walk the talk.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's so interesting because my parents were both teachers. My dad was a history teacher and my mom was a second or third grade teacher, so littler kids. And it's interesting because I think in a way teaching helps you clarify because you say it out of your mouth and you're like, this is the way we do this. And you're like, oh, that is the way we do that. You know what I mean? It's so interesting how that's it's you hear yourself say it and it solidifies something in you to express it to other people. And that's so fascinating about teaching in general, I think. Well, I can't believe that we are basically close to our time. I feel like you and I are going to have to do this again. Now, I always end our little conversations with a couple of questions.
Okay.
And I will ask you one of the ones. Let's choose one. So I actually have not asked anyone this question. I'm really curious what your answer is to it.
Okay.
What has got your attention these days?
A lot of things musically, right? In the music world?
Actually, any way that you want to interpret it is totally fine.
AI has gotten my attention, and I'm scared by it, and I'm also inspired by it because I've done a little work on Suno, which is the music AI platform, and definitely my students sort of introduced me to it. And it's a good supportive. It can take you to the next step in your songwriting. but at the same time, it's only in its beginning stages. And I'm worried about it replacing me and songwriters.
Yeah.
I hope that songwriting, the most important thing in a song is your personal point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, lyrically, um, that that isn't being duplicated. That personal point of view and isn't being duplicated, but it's definitely grabbed my attention.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's so funny because when people talk about AI, it reminds me of the time in I guess it was the 70s when they first developed, computerized drums, right? And oh, everybody loved the drums. And of course they're still used and they're still a part of the process. And for certain things, they're perfect, they're great. But I would say for the most part, the business has re-embraced acoustic drums because the sound and the feel. And of course, as we often talk about, it is not about having the beat be perfect. It is about the beat swinging.
Quantizing is not the answer,
No. No, being perfect is not. In fact, being perfect is the opposite of what really affects people, what resonates with people artistically is just the opposite of perfection. Here's one more.
Okay.
What is your favorite way to switch off? You are such a busy person. What is your favorite way to switch off?
Oh, watching an old film noir. I love film noirs.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
yeah, so if I want to just relax, I will put on an old Humphrey Bogart movie in black and white and just I'm happy as a clown. I know the good ones, so I'll pick out of the past or I'll pick In a Lonely Place or something. And
It's That's a great thing. I actually am in a movie club and we meet on Monday nights and we watch a lot of older movies and I did not have any I didn't have any information about old movies and I have found it is a great escape because they are so
it's another world.
It's a totally different world. It's a totally different world and you're just totally drawn in to this kind of moment of manners and traditions and everybody dressing up and it's all of it.
Nobody's on their phone.
Nobody's on
And even the criminals wear hats.
That is a great way to finish this conversation. Even the criminals wear hats. Mr. Mark Winkler, music producer.
Well, Angela, we have to say I have a new album out.
Oh, please.
Number 26 on the jazz charts.
Yes.
And you can get it on all streaming services called Hold On. And, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And you also have a book out, right? Which you mentioned a little bit before. Tell the folks about your book.
It's called the Songwriting Handbook.
Okay.
And it's basically my course that I teach at UCLA Extension, which I've been teaching for 20 years. But it's also peppered with a lot of autobiographical stories about my life as a songwriter. I've had over 250 of my songs recorded. And I have some good stories in there. I name some of the people, and sometimes I don't name some of the people.
As you should. And how do folks follow you if they want to find information about you or whatever? Do you want to just tell people quickly how to do that?
Mwink Music. It's markwinklermusic.com.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Mark Winkler on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, and I think you're on Insta too, right?
I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere. Okay.
Just like you. Only you're way better than me. I'm pretty good, but you're like better.
I don't know about that. Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on your 22nd album and the success of your incredible book, which is so fascinating. I read some excerpts out of it. It looks so fascinating to me. I love your stories. I know I would have loved your mother. And what an amazing, amazing life you have had here in Los Angeles, growing up in the music scene and just, doing, some of the songs that you were like, God, they're terrible. And then you finally figured out after years and years. I mean, I think what people could take away from this conversation is that, you just have to stick with it. You just have to really stick with it. It is technique. It is technique and discipline. That's really what there's some magic involved, but a lot of times
there's some magic involved.
Yes.
But the other thing it's really involved is you got to be honest. You got to risk some stuff. Being a songwriter is being brave.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to write the stuff that truly you feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not that you think people are going to like, but what you need to say. I'm a songwriter because I have to be a songwriter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
like everybody, you had choices of doing other things for a living, and this is the thing that really called to you. And thank God for that. That means I got to meet you. So
good, me too.
Mark
I feel
Winkler,
the same way.
thank you, everybody, for joining us for Life as a Band Leader. Fantastic stories from Mr. Mark Winkler. We'll have to do this again. There's obviously a lot more where that came from. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks, all.
Thanks, Angela.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Life as a Band Leader. We hope you had as much fun listening as we did making the music. If you loved what you heard, go ahead and hit follow, share it with a friend who loves a good groove, and come see us live sometime. You can find all our upcoming shows, music, and a little more band madness at outrageous8.com. Until next time, keep swinging, keep smiling, and keep the music alive.